And my happiest moments are when I get to live in the Venn diagram of all things Michigan and all things defense. When they intersect, I am truly enjoying my time, the legislation, and the work that we get to do. And I think I was excited to do this panel most of all because of the moment that we're in Michigan. We just accomplished something that took us a decade of time and energy, and that was getting a replacement fighter mission at Selfridge Air Force Base on top of our refueler mission. And what happens when you as a state, your governor, your state leaders, your federal delegation, what happens when everyone is focused in a very bipartisan way on one goal, and then you accomplish it, right? Well, you get to celebrate it. You get to have a few good months and a few good moments. But the truth is, it actually is a moment for recreation and rebirth on what we want to do as a defense community in the state of Michigan. So it's on us to actually think through that and think how Michigan in particular can specialize in our strengths, but help the future fight for the whole country. And what I want to talk to you today is like my back of the envelope 2030 defense plan for what I think we should be focusing on over the next decade here in the state of Michigan. For those of you who I haven't met, I live in Holly, Michigan. You heard my national security background, so it's impossible once you're raised in the national security world to take those glasses off and not see the world through a national security lens. But it's also impossible to grow up in Michigan and not understand our specialties here. We did something that is extremely relevant for the moment that we're in right now, back when Henry Ford invented the assembly line, right? He did this thing that created a monumental leap forward for manufacturing in the United States. Now, it's many years in the past, but the idea is the same, that we need to figure out what is that giant leap forward when it comes to defense issues in 2025, right? What's the modern day equivalent of going from, hand tooling and making individual carriages one by one to creating a manufacturing line that at one point was employing, just in the city of Detroit alone, almost 300,000 people. The military thinks in these leaps as well, right? For those of you who are defense nerds like myself, you might know what it means to say we're looking for the next offset, right? American history on the national security side are us figuring out those giant leaps forward on the defense side, which has created us being the strongest military in the world. The first offset, nuclear weapons. And not just the nuclear race that we competed in the 30s, 40s, and 50s, but then creating tactical nukes, right? Taking that technology and being able to dominate any other nation state in the world because of our nuclear arsenal. Fast forward to post-Vietnam era. Just understanding the second offset, which was how do we get more long-range intelligence and technology? How do we start building ISR into our thinking? How do we get better information on our adversaries to inform our policymaking? The third offset in military competitiveness is upon us, right? Is the combination of the power of supercomputing and technology combined with the decision-making functions of a human being. That is the next offset that we've been working on since pretty much, I would say, 2012, 2014. How do we take all the best of technology and give it to the warfighter? So instead of just taking that hill, he has 360-degree visibility on what is happening up and around that hill and over that hill. We get other eyes on from other positions so that that soldier isn't just using what he has at his advantage. He's using the full suite of technological tools. But I would offer that the next big shift, something that we're seeing in real time in a place like Ukraine, is what I consider a fourth offset. The future of defeating our adversaries and making sure we remain the dominant party in the world, the dominant military, is being able to go from concept to fielding of a new system in less than the time it takes us right now. Right now, the Pentagon is an incredible place to be working, but if you have a new cool idea and you're a company that wants to serve your country, it will take, on average, 3 years to go from concept to actually fielding that weapon system or whatever, surveillance system, whatever it is. In China, that flash to bang is 1 year, from concept to fielding. So if we want to dominate the next generation in the world on global power, we have to be able to move faster than we can currently move. And I know defense contractors in Michigan feel this acutely, right? You're constantly trying to get that new mission, that new contract. It takes forever. And we know that new startups live in often what we call the valley of death. They have a great idea, they can't get the attention of the big defense contracts, and they die in the vine and don't survive as entrepreneurs because they live in that valley of death. There's no sort of dynamism. So what I'm offering for Michigan is for us to think ahead a decade about the new military missions, the new tech, and the new jobs, particularly in manufacturing, that are going to help not only the state of Michigan, but also the Pentagon and our military organizations propel us into the future and win the fights of the future. We're seeing a lot of this iteration in a place like Ukraine, right? I give the Ukrainians a lot of credit. They are figure out, particularly in drone technology, they have an idea, they're putting a commercial drone together with their best aerospace engineers, and they're figuring out new ways to do things, new ways to engage in warfare that the world has really never seen. That's the kind of dynamism we need to bring to traditional manufacturing. Now, when it comes to new missions, right, new military missions, you know we don't have active duty bases here, but we have some competitive advantages that we need to double down on, okay? We have some of the largest amounts of uninterrupted airspace east of the Mississippi. People love that, particularly our Air Force friends, right? They love to be able to maneuver and move around. So what our mission is, certainly in my office, is to make sure we do full permanent funding and expanded funding for our Northern Strike Operation exercise up in, yes, I know the Grayling guys are very excited to hear that. Yes, we love it for Grayling, but I also want to say it's the largest multi-domain exercise east of the Mississippi. We do things with drones, with Spectrum. We got to bring more and more private sector players into that fight and simulate, thank you for the one guy clapping, simulate what I think the real future of warfare is, which was a pairing up of our best commercial tech with the know-how of the US military. Number two, we need to bring new technology into our processes. We need to understand that the manufacturing of the future is not going to look like the manufacturing of our past, right? There's no longer the greasy floor with 100 guys working the same repetitive motion. We need AI involved in the process, 3D printing involved in the process, iteration involved in the process. We need an entirely different way of looking at things, and no one is better poised to think about those things than Michigan. Because it's hard enough to manufacture things, right? People think it's easy. It's hard enough to do it. But to be the leaders of the future, we need to be the leaders of new manufacturing techniques. We can't live in the past. We have to integrate all these new tools, and we need our next generation to help us do that. And then that's going to help us bring the new jobs of the future, right? Right now, we think we have about 166,000 defense jobs in the state of Michigan. But for a state that represents 3% of the nation's population, we're doing about 1% of the defense contracts. We're going to change that, people, okay? And 75% of our contracts are with the Army. We're going to change that too. We love our Army, but we're not just about ground vehicles. That's not the only thing we know how to do. We know how to make things with precision. So the jobs of the future and attracting a new generation to Michigan, right? Not just losing people to go to other places like Silicon Valley or wherever they want to do cool stuff. We're going to be attracting people with the new techniques, the new technology that we build into manufacturing. So I know my time is up. The clock is up here, but I just wanted to kind of roll this out, a little bit of thinking. I know we'll talk about it, but the future for us is helping our military with that fourth offset, which is really rapid, dynamic manufacturing for the best ideas. And if they don't work, we scrap them and we start with something new. So thanks for being here. Thanks for caring about defense in Michigan. We're going to do some kick-ass things. And Selfridge was just the beginning. So thanks, everybody.